All right, welcome to Words of the Wise. Today's guest is Chief Rodriguez from El Segundo PD in California. I am so excited to have him on the show. He has over 30 years experience in law enforcement and a lot of really unique perspectives on wellness. So welcome to the show, Chief Rodriguez. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Paige. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to our conversation. I think it's important that we do this. So thank you for doing this.
Yeah, of course. And again, I appreciate your time. 30 years is a long time to be in law enforcement.
It is.
I would love to give our listeners just a little background on you, how you got into law enforcement, maybe some of your accomplishments or your assignments throughout those 30 years, and how you got to the chief role that you're currently sitting in.
Yeah. So I think when we first spoke, I tell you it's 30 years and it feels like a long time, but it actually has flown by. Probably because I really enjoy what I do.
Yeah.
It's a fun job. It's very rewarding. It can take a lot out of you if you allow it to. Just for a brief story, I started this career back in 1991. I was a young 21-year-old kid, went to the academy with another department, the sheriff's department. I was about 10 days from graduating from their academy, and I was off duty watching a movie, and I had a seizure off duty. After I had that seizure off duty, they forced me to resign for medical reasons because there was uncertain as to what caused that particular seizure, if you will. It was a grand mal seizure. Then I didn't know if I was going to get back into law enforcement. Then probably 3 years later, I started applying with other departments. And then I got picked up by MTA Police Department, which is here in LA County, kind of patrols all of the rail and bus systems here in LA County. Worked there for about 2.5 years. And then after those 2.5 years, I lateraled to Santa Monica Police Department, where I spent roughly 27 years there. 27 years of that time flew by really fast. It was a great department to work for. I worked primarily for 12 years working in narcotics, which is basically undercover narcotics surveillance team, which was a lot of interesting cases. It took me to a lot of different areas outside of Santa Monica, other parts of the county and other counties. And then literally over almost a year ago now, I started here on April 8th of 2024 as the chief of police here for the city of El Segundo. So I've been here for a year. Again, the highlights of my career have been having a time where you can enjoy your job. I very rarely do I have a day where I say I don't like what I do. I really enjoy what I do, and especially in the position that I'm in now. I love mentoring folks. I love preparing them for the future. I love what I'm doing here in the sense of preparing this organization for the future, preparing the next leaders, preparing the next chief to come from within this house, between those people that are here working now. I think that's important, creating a mentoring program where people can develop themselves for the future and become supervisors themselves. That's what I'm really keen on and focusing on doing that here for this city now. On top of that, this year we had some really good success here. I had an 18% drop in Part 1 crimes, which is big. And that's something
Yeah.
I tell my staff. I go, we don't take that lightly. We should definitely post that, tell the community that, because that means that our officers are out there doing the work. And we can only thank them for going out there day in and day out, making sure that we keep our community safe. I think that's very, very important.
Yeah, that's incredible. And, we talked about this a little bit where you were from previously, Santa Monica PD. There's actually quite a few chiefs who are currently sitting at other agencies who have come from Santa Monica PD, one of which we had on this podcast previously, Chief Lowe. And do you think that there was something maybe about that organization that prepared, you're talking about like preparing the future generation, preparing for the future in wellness and leadership. Do you think that there was something that you learned from that organization that kind of prepared you for that leadership role? Was there anything in place? Because we have, I think you said eight chiefs,
There's five. There's five
five.
myself.
Okay.
There's three up in Washington, one being Chief Lowe, the other one being Chief Almada, who's in Lacey, Washington. There's Chief Wendell Shirley, who's in Bellevue, Washington. And then we have Chief Federico, who's in Port Hueneme here in California. I think the organization did a really good job in hiring good talent and then making sure that talent learns how to be good leaders. The one thing the department really focused on, and I really focused on, is leadership, making sure you know how to take care of your people, know what's best for the organization to move forward. And in that community that I came from, there's a lot that happens in that city that a lot of people don't know about. So it really prepared me for this next level and this next step to where anything that I'm facing or deal with, I probably have an idea as to what to do or have experienced it and can get good direction. But there's also a good network of people because all five of those individuals, we talk regularly, communicate via text, via email, whatever it may be, share information because we know that we worked probably together for 20, 25 years. So we all know each other well. I still go down to my former agency from time to time when there's a retirement or a celebration for somebody promoting. So it does a really good job in building a good camaraderie, good kind of family environment, because that's important too. If you feel welcome and you feel like you're in an environment that people feel respected and wanted, they're going to do good work for you. And that's what I'm doing here with the city that I'm in here now with El Segundo, is building that family environment, making sure our people feel welcomed, wanted, and are a big part of what we're trying to accomplish here in the city.
Well, and that's a part of wellness, right? If you're trying to instill those qualities within the organization of like, hey, like we're supporting you, we care about you, we want you to have a long career, we want to prepare you for leadership, that's all wellness. How can you make sure that they have those long and successful careers so that they can maybe eventually be in leadership roles if that's something that they choose to do and they want to, rise up in the ranks and be here for as long as you have. 30 years is a long time, and so I do think that there has to be that level of care and that wellness within the organization. I know you said that, and I want to circle back to what you said before about having a seizure and not really knowing if you were going to be able to come back into law enforcement, and if that was for you. And eventually you did, you came back and you're in law enforcement. And how did that impact, that experience of like, hey, I don't really know if this is for me anymore. I didn't really feel like maybe I had the support. How does that impact how you lead today?
Uh, Big in the sense that, like I mentioned, I didn't know if the career was for me. When I went to the next agency that first hired me after I had the seizure, which I was thankful for the position. And then when I was in the training program, it got to the point where I wasn't meeting the demands of what they wanted, so much so that they put you with the field training officer that typically is the one that's going to fire you at some point because that's what they're trying to angle towards. So I almost quit a couple of times where I would come in, I was not happy. I was miserable. I said, this isn't what I liked. This wasn't what I thought your profession was going to be like. But after there was an incident that occurred, after that incident occurred, they said, okay, no, you're fine. And that never happened again, meaning I passed training and then I moved on from there. So when I look at our young people that are coming into this profession, there's been times where I tell them, hey, I've been in the same boat you're in. And I kind of tell them the story of what happened with me. They kind of, their eyes light up. I say, look, just keep your head in the game, meaning get to what you need to get accomplished and it'll get better. Every day is not going to be the same. So that kind of builds some resiliency on my part to know that you can always get through whatever issues and problems you may have, as long as your moral, ethical, and legal values are always there. You will always get through it. So I am a firm believer again in giving people a second chance should they do something where it's like, okay, what are we doing to get past this? How egregious was this issue? What can we do to improve them? Not looking at the negative thing. And when somebody does do something, we're going to hold them accountable for that. Once they hold them accountable, then you move on. You can't hold them accountable for whatever they did 5, 6 years ago. You need to look forward and do what's best for that employee to make sure they get better. Unfortunately, that's what happens sometimes in this profession, that when somebody does something, it sticks with them for a very long time. And we don't want that. I want them to learn from their mistakes if they should make a mistake and move on. I think that's extremely important.
And that was the word I wrote down, was resilience and resiliency. And I think that it's great that you talk to your agency and you humanize yourself in that way of like, hey, like I've been there. Like I get it. Like I've struggled with this too, because it does create that safe space of like, okay, like Chief's been there, and
Mhm.
look at him now. Because now, you've been in this career for 30 years and you're now chief of police. And so it's a testament to your resiliency. But I think that it also gave you the ability to have empathy and relatability to other people in your organization who also might be struggling with things. So I love that you share that with them.
So the one thing that I've said, because again, I've had a lot of friends and we have a good group of people that I talk to regularly, we meet, is that when you promote to different positions, you don't change as a person. I remain the same person. The only thing that changes is my role and responsibilities. So if those persons that you're dealing with or your friends or colleagues may not respect that, okay, well they need to understand that now my position has changed. Do I like having to hand down discipline and telling somebody, hey, you can't do this job anymore? I hate it, but I have to do
Mhm.
it. I have to do it simply because I'm protecting the integrity of the organization, protecting the profession, making sure that we do everything ethically and morally and legally correct. But again, it's like I've said all along, I'm still the same person. I'm still the same kid who grew up in Culver City down the street from here, went to Catholic school for 12 years, has 3 children, married, stuff of that nature. So we all have lives. Put on our pants the same way everybody else does. So I think once you humanize that, that's extremely important that they see that and understand that, hey, I have faults too. I've learned from the faults, and not everybody's perfect. There's no way everybody can be the same and be perfect.
Yeah, and I want to ask you a question to touch on that, where you say, I'm still the same person that I was before. Maybe my role within the organization has changed, but I'm still me. And I've had a lot of conversations where we talk about people changing throughout the career. And maybe they do change from who they were when they entered into this career over time because of the stressors or the things that they experience or see on the job. What are some of the things that you have done in your personal wellness that has allowed you to maintain that sense of who you are outside of the career and to, maintain that healthy space on and off the job?
I think it's having outlets, whether it's you enjoy physical fitness, whether you work out, you run, ride a bike, doing things that will get you out of the environment of police work. Uh, I very rarely talk in codes. I don't talk acronyms. I talk plain English. So when people start talking codes, sometimes my staff here, I go, wait, what is that again? Because again, they talk different codes here than they did in Santa Monica. So sometimes even now, a year later, I'm still having to ask them, what do you mean by that? So when you leave work, if you can, and if you're not on call and not one of these positions where you can leave the job at work, leave it at work. That's what I really try to do. If there's times when I'm going on vacation, I tell my staff, hey, I'm gone for 2 weeks. For these 2 weeks, captain or lieutenant or whoever it is in control of the ship. Because if I leave and the staff doesn't know how to run the day to day and the department can't function appropriately, then I'm not doing my job preparing them for that next step. So I should be able to leave and go on vacation, allow staff to take care of what they need to take care of. Obviously, barring a really extreme emergency, will I respond, but otherwise, the day to day stuff, every staff member should, the next staff member below me should be able to handle that. I think doing that, whether it's, I think I mentioned to you earlier, I've gone back to my faith. Like I mentioned, born and raised Catholic. So recently I started going back to church, not because I'm looking for anything particular, but I like and enjoy hearing the words, being around people who want really just positive environment. And it's only an hour out of your week. So go there for an hour, listen to what the words are, and then feel good, and then potentially get involved with the parish. Is what's what I'm looking to do. Enjoy time with your family. I have children, so enjoy time with family. Make sure you make the most of your time with your wife, your kids, your children. There's sometimes where I've lacked in that, and that's been part of my issues that I've had in the past, where I was so focused on work that I lost track of those things. Now that I'm older, obviously towards the tail end of my career, I understand how much more important it is to do that and really appreciate that time. So again, advice if you're talking about to give to those folks who are just starting their profession, keep in mind that the career will always be there, but your family may not. In other words, if you have a child who's playing a sport or graduating from school and all that, if you have the ability to go to that, go to that, because otherwise that particular time and space will never happen again. And if you can not miss that, go to the events. That's what I'm best thing I can tell folks.
I love that you said that because I feel like it sounds so simple, but it's not. I think when you get so wrapped up in the career and what you do, and you put so much weight and value in what you do, and what you do is very important and it is very valuable. But the perspective of, hey, the job will still be there, but your kid hitting a home run at their baseball game for the first time, you might not ever get that back. And so prioritizing your family, prioritizing your time outside of the job to maintain that like healthy balance
Yeah,
between, work life and home life.
and that's part of wellness too, right? You're taking care
Mhm.
of your staff and your employees that are here, not only here while they're working, but off duty at home with their family. Because in my opinion, once you do that, then your work product that you're going to get on the field is going to be phenomenal. It's going to be good because they feel supported, feel taken care of, they feel valued. Their family life is in a good place. Their work life is in a good place. So you're going to see uses of force go down. You're going to see officers' injuries going down. So to me, that's important. You got to take care of your officers' overall well-being so that you can get a good work product out there.
Yeah, 100%. And I think too, if they know that it's okay to have that balance
Mhm.
and that you're not going to be judged for that organizationally, that you actually are encouraging that and that you also take your time off and you value that, then it takes that like stress off. There's no
Yes.
like guilt of like, oh, I'm doing this with my family. Now I feel guilty because I should be here instead, because you're giving permission to no, do that. Like we encourage that. We want you to do that.
Definitely, because again, that's what creates the environment where it's a family-oriented space here, where
Mhm.
people feel appreciated and feel like as though they want to come to work. I want people to feel valued, and when they feel appreciated, they're going to do their job in a good way, professionally, and do a really good, efficient job for us.
100%. And I was actually laughing when you're like, I don't speak in code because you guys do love your acronyms
Yes.
and I'm
Yes.
trying to keep up. Like on the outside, I'm like, wait, what? Okay. Like, and I know like the top ones for like certain things, especially like conferences and organizations and things. And I'm like, okay. And I'm trying to keep up. And I think that's really funny. You're like, can we just talk in like normal, like
Yeah.
not code? And I think that probably people appreciate that too, of that like, again, it's like that human element of like, hey, let's just like talk like people to each other and,
Yes.
and take the pressure off a little bit.
And that's the one thing you need to do with the community, right? Is we cannot look like we're robotic in nature, because that's how you build the public trust is by making sure that you humanize yourself, like we're mentioning, and then
Mhm.
you allow people to talk in regular English like you would talk to a friend or a family member. Community members appreciate that far more, where you're vulnerable to them, and also talking about what you're doing, what the community, what the police department is doing, just going up and talking to folks where you're not in this stigma where a police officer is only there to enforce, only there to do when something bad happens. And no, we're there to also be part of the community, to go to the events that happen. And in my city, there are a lot of events that happen, and we try to go to as many, if not all, to make sure that we are part and included in those conversations with the community, and they see us out there, where you humanize us as people, humanize the organization, and you get more support that way. I think that's extremely important. That's probably the one thing that I really, really got from my former organization. When you talk about how important it is to build that bank up with the community, you have to do that to build that trust, to build that community support. It makes our job so much easier if we have that support, and we really do here in the community that I'm in now. We have a lot of support here. So I work in an environment where if you walking down our main street, everybody says hello, how are you doing? So we have to be open and willing to do that and be engaging with our community too as well. It's extremely important to do that.
Yeah, that's huge. And it's honestly interesting because I feel like as I do this podcast, there's kind of certain things that come up in waves. Like it's almost like everyone syncs up somehow, even if you're in different parts of the country. And one of the things that we've been talking about is that it's like the importance of community support and how that impacts officer wellness. Because if you're in an environment where everyone is negative, like no one likes you, the community doesn't support you, they're not wanting to cooperate with you, it impacts your mental health too. And then I had a conversation recently that said, hey, if you're having, it was like the flip side of it, they're like, if you're having a bad day, there's so much power in the community to go and like, talk to people and, try to get a high or a thank you or like something that's gonna like take you out of that like negative mental headspace because it does it matters, if you're just pulling people over and and they're not happy with you day after day after day after day and that's all you get is the negative, the negative, the negative, and you're not getting that community relation of like, hey, thank you, officer, like, hey, how are you doing, or like, and involving yourself with kids and like having that sort of joy throughout your day. So I've had this conversation with a few others that mention that the importance of community support and then you in turn showing up for your community.
Yeah, and I enjoy that part. That's probably the part of my job I love the most is engaging with, like you mentioned, with the young folks and going to our community events where you can openly just talk to people. Because again, that's why you sign up to do this job, is to take care of the well-being of people and to protect your community. When you go out there and you feel the support, that really means a lot. Like you mentioned, if you're working a motorcycle and you're a motorcycle officer, most, if not all of your contacts are going to be negative because you're giving people tickets, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, get that motorcycle officer off of the bike and then talk to people, get them engaged with the community, let them see that other side. That's important. Sometimes we do get in the middle of trying to get them to be way too proactive and not involved in our community. But once you get the other side, you got to kind of de-emphasize the ability to not only having to be so proactive in writing tickets, let them, like you said, humanize, get part of the community, be involved. That's where you see a change in human behavior. And I think people will do really well once you see that.
Yeah, 100%. And I love that in leadership are also prioritizing your wellness. And I'll obviously jump into some of the things you're doing organizationally, but I had this conversation actually with Chief Lowe, and so that's why I thought about this is the idea of executive leadership wellness, and the importance of you also taking care of yourself. And you were talking about how you're trying to encourage wellness in the context of supporting future leadership, and this importance of you taking care of yourself, and kind of that analogy of, and I'm not trying to talk in code, but that
Yeah,
analogy of like putting your oxygen mask on first. And that conversation has come up recently of, as a chief, how do you maintain your wellness and have a support system of people that you can reach out to? Because a lot of chiefs feel like, well, there's nowhere to go up. And sometimes I don't feel really comfortable or that it's appropriate to, talk to someone in a lower rank. So then having that community that you can still have that outlet. And it sounds like you spend time with your family. Like you said, you referred back to your faith in the church, but you also have a community of other chiefs that you talk to.
correct. Yeah, we do. I meet with the chiefs here regularly. There's a area chiefs here from the South Bay, which is the region that I'm in. We meet monthly and we can communicate with each other at any time. There'll be a month where I talk to a couple of these individuals multiple times a week, if not a month, where we discuss certain things. Like, for instance, if I have a major incident that I'm dealing with, I have no problem reaching out to them and calling them, hey, what do you think? What would you do here? Get that advice. Because as was mentioned, I don't know everything. But I think I will guide us in the right direction to get there. And that's part of what I do to try to make sure that we are excuse me, my phone's ringing, I'm turn it down, to make sure that we have outlets to talk to individuals. And then I have a good group of friends that I can bounce stuff off of that are still in police work, and you can talk to them too. And some have retired, some are still active. So having that ability and that outlet to do that. And as I mentioned too, my wife is a psychologist, so she
Yeah.
really likes to talk. So talk two things. So she really is somebody who keeps me grounded, and I don't try to tell her too many things that are going on, but I do sometimes talk some of the struggles when it comes to the leadership and what I'm dealing with and stuff of that nature. That really helps me out tremendously too as well.
Well, you lucked out with having an in-house psychiatrist that can talk to you about
Yes,
things.
yes.
Maybe like a blessing and a curse at the same time. But I think that it's just really a good message to any leaders who might be listening to this of, you know, you have to take care of yourself to be able to take care of your people. And then your people need to take care of themselves so that one, they can have a long career and maybe potentially be in leadership roles one
Sure.
day, but also so that they can be there for their community and be able to, take care of their family. And so it's like this snowball effect of like, yes, we have to take care of ourselves first to be able to protect and take care of others.
Yeah, because if you are looking to potentially promote to my position or the position below me, and I'm always miserable, upset, or angry, they're gonna be like, I don't want to do that. So
Mhm.
you try to create that environment where you show them you're modeling the way of what you believe is the right way to kind of how do you act around other people? How do you talk to people? How do you treat them? And again, for me, like I mentioned, to me, it's important for them to know I'm just like the person next to me, no different, other than I have a different role and responsibility. That's the only difference, right? Do people act differently when they see the chief? Yeah,
Sure.
it's because of what I do, right? But I try to humanize it, bring it down, and make it less stressful. And there's certain environments where I'll know, okay, I'll just go and say hello if this here, and I'll walk away and let them do what they're doing, simply because it allows people to be themselves. But again, yeah, I think it's important that I model that way, show them what I believe is important, and then show a positive influence for those that are out there doing the work and those that are potentially aspiring to do what I'm doing or move up in leadership roles in the department. That's important too.
Well, and you mentioned early, like creating this family-oriented like organization, and I think that that's one thing that maybe is missed sometimes, that foundationally there has to be this culture of safety and wellness within the organization for any of the wellness programming to be successful. And if you don't have that of like, okay, like we are family oriented, we do take care of each other, we have this culture of wellness, then what you throw on top of it doesn't really matter as much. If you have an organization where leadership doesn't really care about wellness, where everyone is really angry and upset all the time, and culturally you have, maybe some things to work on, then if you throw wellness programming on top, it's not well received or people aren't going to buy in. And we, in the context of wellness, like it's funny because I like talking to California agencies for just the reason of like using different words, like holistic approach. Like I don't think that that's really adopted across the country. But I think more importantly of like what you have, it's like how healthy is the organization first? And there was a conversation one time where someone said, yeah, like I came from an organization where I didn't even talk to the chief at all. Like I didn't even know who they were. Like I never saw them, never ever like didn't know who they were. And there wasn't a lot of support and I didn't really feel like I had these things. And then there was like wellness programming that kind of checked the box. And when we talked offline, you were really passionate about having a culture of wellness, but taking a holistic approach and making sure that you're not just checking a box, you actually have these resources in place where people are benefiting from them. And then we talked about this earlier, and then you're training them to become future leaders and to have these long, successful careers. So, what is your, I know that was long-winded,
Yeah.
but what is your approach when it comes to holistic wellness within your organization? Are there certain pillars that you work off of, or certain areas of wellness that you guys have kind of focused on to create that?
Yeah. So when I came into the organization, it was already doing a wellness program. There's a wellness program already up and running, which consists not only of your sworn staff, being police officers, it also includes our professional staff, non-sworn staff, because they are an important part of the organization. So they have to be included in this as well, because they impact the organization culture completely too. We also offer incentive for pay, meaning for fitness pay. Every quarter, officers can do a certain level of fitness, and if they show they're up to a certain fitness level, they get compensated, which is good too. It's another good way to do it. We also, not many departments do that. I believe my friend up in Washington, Wendell Shirley, does this too. He offers jujitsu training to our officers. We offer up to 8 classes at no cost, meaning the department pays for it. It's through Gracie University, and the officers who go there get the training at no cost. They do it for themselves, and those who go love it. They enjoy the time they spend there. Not only does it build their skills, but it also builds their skills to be able to perform better out in the field. They feel more confident. They feel like they won't get injured anymore, as opposed to not having that skilled training. So we find that that is very important. We also have a peer support team here that where officers feel like they need to talk to somebody, they will be in contact with somebody from our peer support team. And if they feel like, hey, let me pass them on to a therapist or somebody they can speak to, they can do that too as well, to where we don't necessarily, me as a chief or executive level staff, we won't know who's part of it. So it's blind. So it's done blind billing kind of a process where the person can go talk to somebody and have the opportunity to do that. More recently, we had somebody come through here that's trying to get us to go through something called ocean therapy, where it's like a group therapy session through the Jimmy Miller Foundation is what we saw. It's here in Manhattan Beach. They're here locally, and they do group therapy and they show you how to surf at the same time. Apparently, that's been working very well. We just got invited to this last week, so we're really considering. I think when you look at the holistic approach, is about being open-minded to new and different things. You can't just be, well, we're not going to do that because nobody around us is doing it. Being
Mhm.
okay and being potentially the innovator to this new thing and try it. Try something different. Try something that you may initially be like, I don't know about that. But maybe if you go look at what they're doing and say, hey, this may work. It may not work for me, but it may work for our younger officers, our millennials, our folks that are younger and younger, obviously, who may see things differently. Because 30 years ago, the stuff that I'm talking about was not being discussed at all. It was just kind of like, hey, you're going through this, deal with it. We'll see you tomorrow. It wasn't like you couldn't talk about what you were feeling. There was no peer support teams, no wellness programs. None of that was around. Because again, there was the stigma of that. If you're doing that, then you're going to be looked at as though you're not fit for your job. There's
Right.
a mental health issue where you potentially can't do your job. And some of that still exists. Some people still think that that's the case. Where in this organization, if they say they need help for something where they want to talk to somebody, I would never do that. I'm not going to sit there and say, well, you have an issue, you need to deal with it. But as long as they're looking for help, to me, that's important. You can't be closed-minded to an individual who may be struggling. We need to offer them the services and the help that they need to get through whatever they're doing with and to be a better employee.
100%. And I love that you said being open-minded, and just because maybe I'm not into it doesn't mean that it wouldn't be beneficial for other people. And I think sometimes we kind of get, because I think that as human beings, like our perceptions shape, like our decision making.
Yep.
And our perceptions are based on our past experiences and our preconditioning and all the things that we've gone through. And so I think that having that mentality of, maybe like I'm not really into that, but that doesn't mean that someone else couldn't benefit from that. And, for example, like I am not a runner.
Mm.
I'm not a runner. I've got bad knees for different like physical reasons. And I don't enjoy it at all. But I would never sit here and be like, you shouldn't run because I'm not a runner. And
No.
so I think there's a different perspective of like, hey, it's not for me, but I know a lot of people that benefit from running and getting out there and like clearing their mind and having that physical fitness component to their wellness. And so I think that's a really important message to share with anyone. It doesn't matter if you're in leadership or not, but saying like, hey, like have an open mind. Just because it's not for you doesn't mean that, your peer or someone within your organization wouldn't benefit from that. And I was laughing because when you were saying, we didn't have these resources 30 years ago, like, would you like 30 years ago ever imagine that you'd be out there doing water therapy,
No.
ocean therapy?
Never,
Like,
never, no, no, no,
yeah.
not at all. So let me give you something about how time has changed too as well. Story
Hmm.
like if you've seen some officers do a program called November Beard where they grow their beards out there
Yeah.
times a year. The organization I came from, we did that, maybe started that 3 years ago, and I absolutely hated it. I was one of the old dinosaurs, myself and a couple other captains were adamantly against it, but they did it for 2 months. So I get here in April of last year, and what do you think they brought to me right away? Beards. They wanted to grow their beards for certain times for time of the year, which was fine for 1 month. And they knew I absolutely in the memo that was written to me, they knew that I absolutely hated it. So I did look at it. I said, okay, what are we doing? If we do it, let's do it to raise money for a good charity cause, and we did. We did it for City of Hope to raise money for cancer patients, and we raised some money. I allowed the officers to grow their beards for 1 month in December, and it was a good morale builder. But that
Yeah.
to me is again where something I said, okay, you guys, it's all on you guys. Take care of it, but I'm not going to police how long the beards are, which can grow. You're going to have those standards. That's just one of the things for me. For me, an officer should live a certain way, professional, whatever it may be. And certain other departments have loosened their standards, right? Here we have not done that, but we will allow them to do it in December as long as it's done professionally and it's done for a good cause. The other thing I mentioned too, we potentially do it where we get the van from UCLA Health or somebody here. We're part of where because what they had to do is pay into being able to grow their beard for the fundraiser and or maybe do a body scan. Hey, for you, if you come and bring the van out, you do your body scan during this month because as men Very rarely do we go to the doctor. I don't. That's one thing that I don't do. I need to do more of. But we don't go to the doctor that much. Who knows what a body scan can come up with? And that's the one thing I suggested last year. Hopefully we can do it this year if we do it again. Get that body scan van out here so that officer can get scanned and potentially find something that we can catch now and have them healed and taken care of where you know where they're at health wise. So again, that's just a small story of where you could have been. I could have said absolutely not because I hate it, but I'm like, okay, they want it, let's try it, let's do it. It actually was a really good morale builder. I do enjoy the fact that we did do it.
Yeah. And I think it's just even like thinking in that context of like how do we build morale and how does that impact wellness? And I think that it's those small things that because I think the other conversation that we have all the time, especially with organizations outside of California who maybe don't have as much wellness funding, where it's like, well, what do we do? Like, we don't have the money, we don't have the budget. And it's like, there's so many small things that you can do to build morale, to build that culture of wellness within your organization. And that doesn't cost any money. In fact, you're having your officers pay for it to then raise money for a good cause. And now it's teamwork, it's camaraderie, it's like you said, morale building. And I think that that's hilarious and super
Yeah,
creative. But I also really, really liked, I've never heard this before, but I really, really liked incentivizing other wellness with wellness. So like you're sitting here saying, okay, you guys want to do this. This is going to be fun for you. This is making you happier, team building, community relations, because now you're raising money for other organizations and like the community can support that and get behind that and be excited about that. And that's wellness. And if you do a body scan, like I'll let you guys then do this. Or, like having that
yeah,
incentivization of like another wellness component, I thought was really interesting. I think that's so cool.
yeah. And again, like as I mentioned, because I know a lot of males do not go to the doctor. Um, and we offer here in the city, you can go and do a full check of your blood scan, your body, your physical at no cost to you. That would generally cost you a couple $1,000s here locally, and the city pays for it.
Mhm.
And the department does a really good job in pushing that, saying, "Hey, go get your physical done. Get it done yearly so that you know where you're at." That's extremely important. We don't take care of our bodies enough. We think we're invisible, and we're not. And that's the one thing, you see a lot of injuries happen when that isn't happening because officers don't take care of their well-being. They're not taking care of their health. They're not taking care of their nutrition. All that is encompassing. And you talk about a holistic approach, all that happens. I've been blessed in the 30 years that I've only got hurt once when I was in my former department about 25 years ago. I tore my ACL. That was the only time I've been out on the injury. And partly why I've never had any back problems, stuff of that nature, because for 12 years, like I mentioned, I worked narcotics where I didn't have to wear a gun belt, didn't wear a uniform. And then when you promote to lieutenant, captain, and chief, I don't wear the gun belt very rarely, only for special events. So that has really allowed my well-being to continue in talk health-wise, where I don't have those nagging injuries that you see officers deal with on a regular basis when it's your backs, your hips, your knees, things like that. My knees are bad from playing sports, right? From playing sports, even though I still run and do stuff like that. But all the years of playing basketball and football, that has created the issues that I sometimes deal with now. But overall, that is why I think if I retire today or 2, 3 years from now, I'm going to walk away in good health overall. And where I'm seeing other friends who I just went to a retirement for an officer who worked 30 years, and 30 years of that time was all on patrol, pretty much.
Mhm.
So he went out on the back. His back was hurting from wearing the belt for so long. And one of the things that we're doing here is we allowed and I have authorized the ability for officers to shift the weight from their hips and their belts to their upper with the upper carry vest
Yeah.
that allows them to kind of burden the weight up where they can carry their magazine pouch, their radio, their taser, stuff of that nature, where it shifts more weight up, and the only thing down below is going to be your gun belt, your gun, and that's it.
Mhm.
A lot of officers love that, and that's taken away, even though you're shifting it. But those who do it say they feel different, they feel better, they don't feel the same kind of pains that you deal with. And when I did it, I looked at it, I made sure that whatever we were authorized still looked professional, still looked that something that community could support. And we allowed that to happen about 7, 8 months ago, and the officers are very happy with it. And it's again another thing that we've been doing here to make sure that our officers are taken care of and feel that they're being listened to and supported.
Yeah, I love that. And again, it's like it just goes back to like the small things, but it also sounds like you're listening to your your people, and whether that's sworn or civilian, and saying like what can we do and what is important to you guys. I love that you are focusing on more of a proactive approach as well, because no one wants to be injured.
No,
Like you, I say this all the time, like I could walk into a briefing and be like, okay, raise your hand if you want to be injured. And
nobody. Yeah.
no one's going to raise their hand. People might want a vacation.
Yeah.
Like they might want
Yeah,
some
for
time
sure.
off, but no one wants to be injured. But yet there's really not a focus on proactive wellness and like how, if you don't want to be injured, then how can we make sure that, you reduce that risk as much as possible? And so, having incentives for, checkups and body scans to see, okay, where are we? How can we make sure that you don't get past a point where, now you're in bad health, or the jujitsu program, or incentivizing people to work out and prioritize their physical health, moving to, an exterior vest. Like there's all these things that sound like you're really trying to, because you have to have both. You have to have proactive and reactive. Like reactive wellness is never going to go away, but it sounds like you're trying to put in stuff now that will set everyone up for the future.
Yeah, and definitely. And as I mentioned, you can't be resistant to any other things that may come your way. Look at it and see if it fits the mold for your organization and it fits your culture. Why not try it?
Yeah.
If it's a thing where, for instance, like you mentioned, the issue with the outer vest. One of the officers came to us. He wrote a memo. I said, "Okay, well, why don't you put the vest together? This is what we want to see. These are the things I'm okay with up here, and what I'm not. I don't want you to put up top." He built a prototype. He brought it in. It looked good, and I go, "Okay, approved." And it wasn't that difficult. It was
Mhm.
just look at it, make sure. And this is what officers wanted that are working patrol, because again, they're out there working potentially 12-hour shifts, 12 and a half hour shifts. Those hours can be very, very long. And if you're in a car coming in and out of the car all day long, that takes a toll on your body. Uh,
Yeah.
and that's why I was right away looking, okay, if this is what our officers want that are out there working in the field, let's definitely look at this. And if it looks professional, it looks like something we can definitely approve, let's go ahead and do it. And we did. And I'm glad we did actually do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So are we going to see you with a beard in November?
No, I can't go fish like it won't happen. No, that's why everybody makes fun of it. That's probably why you don't like it. No, it's I won't. And when I was working undercover narcotics, the most I do is a little goatee for a little while, but then I haven't done it ever since. It's just not my look.
Yeah, for sure. I was just
There was quite
joking,
a few who
but
did. Yeah, no, I know
yeah,
probably about 30, 40 officers who did do that, which was good. And again, it was a good
30,
morale.
40 officers is a lot.
Yeah, we only have seven. Well, I'm authorized to have up to 72.
Yeah,
So that's still a good percentage of people did grow them out for a little while, and then
yeah,
we raised some good money, and there was some community support behind it. So next year we'll do it even bigger. So
yeah.
we're raise more money. And like I said, I'm really looking
It's
to have
cool.
this body scan van come out here so we can have our officers go through and do that portion of it. So it
Yeah.
is a morale builder.
Yeah, I love it. And again, I think it's a really good message to anyone out there who is maybe in the infancy stages of growing a wellness program. And it shows that like it doesn't have to be crazy or expensive or, over the top. Like you can start with something like that where it's like so attainable and it's something that's really fun and cool. And so I appreciate that perspective of like, how can we build morale? And then you can expand on that. And, obviously we talked about a lot of the things that you've done organizationally. And some of the more unique things that maybe people haven't heard of before with water therapy, and obviously you have your peer support, and we talked about your personal wellness and things that have gotten you, through the last 30 years. What words of advice, and this could be a two-part question, but what words of advice would you either have for leadership, who is, trying to prioritize wellness, and or someone who's younger in their career, who, maybe hasn't been through it yet, what words of advice would you give in the context of wellness? Something that maybe you wish you would have known earlier, or a piece of advice that did help you to get through 30 years.
I think when it comes to leadership is as was kind of we already touched on this is to being open-minded to new ideas, get past that stigma of what wellness really is, because some people still believe that, oh, well, let's just check the box, right? And that's a mistake if you're doing that, because people are going to know that. Your organization will know right away if that's what you're doing. You say wellness, but what are you doing? Not only personally, but what are you doing for the organization? Are you just doing this because that's the hot topic and that was for the last couple of years? But what are you doing over and beyond that to prepare your department for the future? Because
Mhm.
that's what the new generation wants. They want to feel like they're invested in an organization where they feel valued, they feel important, they feel like they're going to be in a place where they can be at for 25, 30 years. Because to last this long in a profession or in one place, it's not very common. So if you want people to do that, to be invested in your organization, you have to be open-minded, I would say, to make sure that you allow any new ideas to come your way. As as outlandish as it may seem to you when you think about it, for us, the old dinosaurs have been around for 30 years. Sometimes you think, wow, like you mentioned, I would have thought of that 30 years. Would I think I'd have somebody in a wetsuit going on and seeing what they can do to do their job to make it better? So we have to be open-minded to those ideas. When it comes to anybody starting in the profession, as I mentioned, value your time with your family, your friends, your time away from work. Not to say that you don't invest yourself into the career, because it'll happen. This is a career that is very demanding. It can definitely take a lot out of you, but don't let it suck you dry. Meaning making sure you take care of your wellness, making sure you continue to work out, take care of your physical well-being. Whatever outlets you feel are important to you is it. I'm a big movie buff, so I love going to the movies. Sometimes when my wife's not available, or my son's not available, or the kids aren't around, I'll go by myself, sit and watch a movie for 2 hours, turn everything off. So for a young person, do find whatever outlet you feel is important to you. Leave work at work and focus on your home and your well-being, and that'll make you much better in the long run when you look at what do I need to do. As I mentioned earlier, if you have any children, go to your children's events. Most organizations that I know that work with will say, hey, I got to, if you have a graduation for a child or something like that, they tell you, go take care of it. If you're in an organization that doesn't allow you to do this because of some of the demands, understandable. But if it happens all the time, you maybe want to look at it. Is this place for me? Because you want to work somewhere where you feel valued and have that ability to go take care of your family, go to your children's events. Because as I mentioned earlier, they're not going to come around all the time. They're going to be gone, and before you know it, like I do, I have a 30-year-old daughter. She's getting married next year, so at a country. So I'm going to go to that, obviously. But that's something where you will never have those opportunities ever again. So you have to take care of that for sure.
Thank you. Those are great words of advice. I really appreciate your time so much and sharing about you and your experiences and how you're supporting your organization and giving words of wisdom to other leaders and other officers or who are earlier in their career. So thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you doing this for our profession. It's very important and it's very meaningful. Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you. Appreciate it.